board on this computer. So today we are going to be covering, oh, Cortana heard me. That's weird. Anyway, today we are going to be covering chapter 5. So we were going, since we did finish chapter 4 last week, we were going to write the mock test today, but Ria told me that she would be absent. What we're going to do instead, I'm going to give you guys the mock test as homework, and we'll review it in next week's lecture. All right, so you guys are going to write the mock test. Ideally, I would like you to get it finished before Sunday. Okay, guys, if you could. It's only going to be 45 minutes, but I'll post links to both mock test 3, which most of you guys have already done. Well, actually, I think all of you, everyone here has done, and mock test 4, and yeah, have them both done by Sunday, please. But definitely before next week's lecture. Okay, cool. So that's that. And that means that we're just going to use the lecture time now. Instead of writing the test, we're going to go straight into chapter 5. This means we'll finish the course a little bit earlier, and it'll also just give you guys some extra time to work on the test. So that's cool. I think this is probably the better way to handle it. And yeah, chapter 5 is quite interesting. I think it rounds out the course really well. So just to give you an overview of what we've done in the course, we started in the first chapter by learning some core programming ideas. We then covered object-oriented programming, which is like a more advanced idea in computer science, and but also a very important idea for programming. So in those, we were just cementing our programming knowledge. In chapter 3, we learned about like software development practices, like best practices, and then also some technologies and ideas that we can use while developing software in a professional way. Then we learned about web applications. And now to round things out, in chapter 5, we're going to learn about desktop applications. And then in chapter 6, we covered databases. So by the end of the course, you'll have a pretty good knowledge base in just computer science and computing in general, which is quite cool. So anyway, desktop applications. I'm looking forward to this chapter, partially because I think you guys will take well to it. But let's just set things up a little bit. So what do I mean by desktop applications? I think you guys should know what I mean. Can any of you guys give me some examples of your favorite desktop applications? Can I get some examples in the chat? Can we name a couple of desktop applications? Okay, so when Saham and Connor finished drawing this little word, that's fairly good. You know, I was expecting one of you guys to say like Steam or something, but yes. So all of these are good examples of desktop applications, right? Final Cut Pro X. Okay, that sounds good. And yeah, there's lots of these, right? There are lots of these. Desktop applications are a fairly, or I guess it would be 10. Hey, but yeah. So desktop applications are a fairly common thing, right? Epic Games has a desktop application. Steam has a desktop application. The browser that I'm currently working in is a desktop application. Visual Studio is a desktop application. Zoom itself is a desktop application. So we've got lots and lots and lots of desktop applications in the world. We call them, when they're programmed for Windows, how they're usually made as it is in something called a Windows Form application, okay? Windows Form. So that's what we'll be learning about, Windows Forms. In a way, there are 2 kinds of desktop applications, okay? Well, technically there's 3, but I'll leave that to surprise you in next week's lecture, okay? So yeah, there are technically 2. So or 2 that the user actually interfaces with, I should say, rather. So we've got a GUI. So we've got the idea of a GUI. You guys know what that is, a graphical user interface. In C# and Visual Studio, we usually call it a visual interface, but that means the same thing. So when you hear visual interface, if you prefer, you can just think about graphical user interfaces. So that's the one. And then on the other side, we have a TUI, a textual user interface. So just to help you guys visualize that, I'll give you an example of what we might call a TUI. So if I go into CMD, so you can see that here, there's not a graphical user interface, right? There's no like buttons and stuff. There's nothing that we would usually call a visual interface, but there is an interface. It's a textual user interface, right? You can type things here. Now, there are applications in this as well. Like there's an application called Ping, okay? And I can say ping www.google.com. So I've given it some input, right? I've interfaced with it, and it gives me some output. Like there is a textual interface here, okay? So those are the 2 kinds of applications that we're going to learn about. And they're both desktop applications. Okay, So when we're creating an application with a visual interface, like Word or any of the ones you guys named, we will use Windows Forms. When we're creating just a textual interface, we will use what are called console-based applications. By the way, command prompts, like things that look like this, they are sometimes called command prompts, terminal, or console. It all means the same thing, okay? Like where I'm typing here, that's called a console. All right, cool. So we've got that. So hopefully that sets it up for you guys. So you guys might be wondering, since we just learned about web applications, it seems like you can kind of do everything with web applications, right? And you guys have seen it. There's buttons, there's addition, there's JavaScript, so you can get complex functionality. It seems like we can do everything we want with web applications. So why would we bother with desktop applications? Why not just make everything a web application and all computers are just browsers that you just access things through? Okay, like it's just, you just have a browser and everyone just accesses the internet. Well, the thing is, desktop applications have some advantages, as you can imagine, right? So one of them is that they integrate with the operating system. And you guys probably know this from personal experience. If there's a website version of a thing, like let's say the website version of YouTube, you know, it's nice and stuff, but the YouTube app will probably work better. It like works a little bit faster. There's a little bit of extra functionality. It's easier to develop. So like the applications integrate with the operating system, and so they can often be a little bit faster. All right. They can also run without direct access to the internet. And, you know, sometimes we don't have an internet connection. Sometimes we don't want an internet connection. And so it's useful to have applications that can run without access to the internet. And they can also communicate with devices such as printers and scanners. And that's a big thing. I'm not sure, actually, Connor. I think it might be because school ended late today. That's my guess, at least. But also, so Ria said that she wouldn't make it. So I was expecting that, but I'm not sure about the others. 4, I reckon. And also remember, Judson counts as 3. Cool. Yeah, but Judson counts as 3. So I think there's what, 6 or 7. I know, 6. Yeah, 6. Anyway, don't think about that. That's why we record the lecture, though. That's why we record the lecture, so they won't miss out. So I got home from school an hour ago, so Yuvia and Joshua should be here. Okay. Well, Yuvia is, right? Joshua is, okay. Yeah, I don't know where Joshua is. Anyway, focus. Let's focus. So, all right. Why I was happy about chapter 5 is because when I was preparing teaching you guys, obviously I went to the end to the knowledge assessment, right? So there's a knowledge assessment at the end of each chapter. You guys know we did it for chapter 1 and chapter 2. And I was going through the knowledge assessment, seeing what kinds of questions you guys would have to know to answer. And I was pleasantly surprised because I think a lot of the questions at the end of this chapter that you guys technically aren't supposed to know yet, a lot of them, I think you guys should actually already be able to answer. So here's an example of one. So this is a question from the knowledge assessments at the end of chapter 5. Okay, here's the question. You are developing a Windows form application that responds to mouse events. When the mouse moves, you need to invoke the method called form1_handle_mouse. Okay, so there's a method called form1_handle_mouse, and we want it to run when the event of a mouse moving occurs, okay? Any code that you write should not affect any existing event handling code. What statement should you use to attach the event handler to the event? And there are your choices, guys. So can anyone answer this question for me in the chat, A, B, C, or D? What do you guys think? Okay, someone says B. That's interesting. Okay. So Ham says D. Okay. Jatson says B as well. All right. I need you guys to think back to chapter 2. Hey, how do we add things to an event? And think about that keyword there. What's the sort of operative word that I said? How do we add things to an event? Okay, cool. No, I'm fairly happy with this. So everyone, B and D are honestly the 2 good answers, right? So number 1, it said that the event was the mouse moving. So both B and D have mouse move. Okay, so that's the correct event to be thinking about. The only difference between them is one is using equals and one is using plus equals. Okay. And the difference lies in that plus equals. Okay. So you guys remember, there multiple methods can be added to a single event. So whenever we add a method to an event, we always use plus equals. Okay. And you guys can think back to chapter 2 when we learned that. Always use plus equals to add to an event. Okay. So there's some background noise, please. Okay, okay, there we go. So we've got, cool. So we always use plus equals to add to an event. And the key thing here is it says any code that you write should not affect any existing event handling code. If you set mouse move equal to form1_handle mouse, then that would overwrite all of the other events that were in event, right? So we have to add it. And notice, they also, you would use the word add, right? How do you add the method to the events? How do you attach the method to the event? It's like a similar way of saying it. And add plus equals, right? Add. Cool. Anyway, but that's not the only one I think you guys should know. So let's see if we get this one. You're extending an existing Windows application. You would like to create a new form. You are extending an existing Windows application. You would like to create a new form that derives its visual characteristics from a previously created form. Which technique should you use to create the new form? So what do you guys think? We want to derive the characteristics of a new form from a form that we previously created. How would we do that, guys? How would we do that? Okay. I'll give you, all right, so we've got 2 answers. I'll take that. We've got a majority vote of 2 here. And yeah, I think that's, well, I know that's definitely correct, right? So when we're talking about deriving characteristics from something that's already created, that's inheritance, right? That's definitely inheritance. And you guys can see, so this word visual, we haven't really discussed. But you guys know what inheritance, encapsulation, polymorphism, and abstractions are way back from chapter 2. So we just threw visual in the front, but it didn't really change the idea much. It's just now we're inheriting visual characteristics rather than just characteristics, okay? But I'll show you guys what this is suggesting. Okay, and that's not the only one I think you should know. Here's another. Again, all of these are from the end of chapter 5. So like theoretically, you guys shouldn't even necessarily know this yet. You are developing an application that will be run from the command line. Which of the following methods would you use for output to the command line? So how would we output to the command line, guys, when creating a console-based application? How do I output to the command line? How do I output to the command line? Okay, so we got a B and a D. Interesting. Okay, I guess you guys are seeing the word write, so that's good. It is B, though. It is B. So file.write is how we would write to a file, right? Not to the console itself. Okay, but yeah, cool. Nicely done, guys. But yeah, good stuff. So you see, like, we haven't even learned chapter 5 yet, and I think you guys are already very, at least familiar with many of the ideas that we'll be picking up in this chapter. So cool. Let's just jump in and actually create a desktop application. I don't think it's too bad. So we'll say, so we use the, I don't think we have, yeah, we haven't, but you guys have seen console.write a lot. So I'm glad that you connected in your head. Yeah, because all Rex Tester is, by the way, all Rex Tester is a console-based application. It's just running in a web browser. So yeah, console.write, console, it's a console-based application, right? Anyway, so let's jump in. So we want to create a Windows form. So initially we're going to start by creating a desktop application that has a graphical user interface or a visual interface, all right? So we do that using the Windows Form Designer. By the way, you guys see it's in bold. I need you to remember that term, okay? When we're creating a Windows form, okay, we use the Windows Form Designer, and it's a very simple way to design a Windows form. It provides some drag and drop functionality, which I'll actually show you guys now. So I'm gonna jump over to Windows, to Visual Studio, and I'm gonna hit Create New Project, quite simply. And we're just going to create a Windows form. Okay, it'll be pretty straightforward. You guys will see. Don't think you guys should worry, be too freaked out by it. So we can say Windows form app. Okay, Windows form app. Hit next. Okay, and we can, all right, I'm going to call it, what should we call it? Bryanston app. I know it's not the most creative of names, but we'll stick with it. And I'll call the solution, like the project, I'll call it Bryanston 5. Okay, for chapter 5, that is. Bob app. Actually, yeah, I prefer that. At least let's stick to our theme, okay? Let's stick to our theme. Call it, I'll call it Bob. We'll stick with Bob. Okay, Bob app. Create. All right. So we've got our Bob app. It's going to go ahead and create. Visual Studio is often a little bit slow, though. I think it's because I'm recording on this computer as well, that it might be a little bit slow. Windows lol, yeah. I have to say, I do like my Linux more. Okay, but it is done now. All right, there we go. That's our form. It's not too pretty yet, but I want you guys to take some notes, a note of something already. Okay, notice the size of the Windows form. Okay, so you guys see I can change the size like this. Notice the size was originally something like this. Okay, and I want you guys to know, so I've changed it to that size. So the default size, when you create a new form, it looks like that. I'm changing the default size to that. Okay. So that's the first thing I want you to take note of. And I did say that, you know, there's drag and drop. So we're going to drag and drop some functionality into our app. We're going to create a fairly simple app. I have some news to tell you. So our app will do it for me. So we're going to say date time picker. There we go. That's our date time picker. All right. And we're going to have a label here as well. So you see I've just dragged. Label is basically just the same as what a paragraph is in HTML. And we've got a date time picker, which will just allow us to pick a certain date and time, as the name suggests, you know? So yeah, there we go. That's going to be our form for now. And you guys can see, so I'm going to build it out. I want you to notice another thing as well. You guys see in the form designer over here, what I've got here, look at the style of the form, okay? Look at the style of the form. You see it looks like Windows 7 or something like that. But there's quite a cool thing now as well. So it's starting building the project. Okay, it finished building the project. I'm going to hit start. So this is going to open up the application on my computer. Let me run a, yeah. But so notice this though, it's quite cool. So the reason they do that is so it has backwards compatibility. So you can see when I run the application now, so I'm in Windows 10. It's going to open up the application in a little while. It's going to take some time though, because it's the first time it's building. You can see the design is now Windows 10. Okay, so you guys can see it's doing that, so it's backwards compatible. It'll work on any version of Windows, which is quite cool. So yeah, and you can see our little date time picker will allow me to pick a date and time, and all I had to do was drag and drop. Obviously, we haven't done anything fancy with the app yet. We'll get to that now, but we'll, yeah. So that's the start of our little Windows form. So we're using the Windows form designer to drag and drop whatever things we want on our form. Okay, fantastic. So let's move on. That's to get things started. Okay. So what we need to do, just like when we were programming the website, like when you click a button, the event occurs and you program a function that does something. We'll do the exact same thing with Windows Forms. It's not going to be different really. But I'm going to leave that for now. And we're going to jump over and discuss inheritance a little bit and then come back to this idea of events. All right. So I want to discuss inheritance. So we've got a basic form here. All right. We've got this basic form called Form 1. What I want to do is show you how inheritance works with forms. Okay. So I'm going to start by showing you this one interesting thing. So you can see if I open up the properties on the left here, let me open up the fill properties for the documents, for the solution, I mean. Oh, we should put a name bar and the dot time picker is your beta and it says happy birthday, like I'm guessing that is similar. Yeah, exactly. That's 100% what we're doing, Connor. So, I mean, we can make it do other things if you have any ideas. We can make it do whatever we want. So, cool. So guys, what I want you to notice, look at the right there, okay? You can see label 1, so that little label there is coming from system.windows.forms.label, okay? Form 1 comes from system.windows.forms.form. So the whole form is inheriting a class, or is the type system.windows.forms.form. So all of these are just classes. And as you know about classes, oh, I hear someone just joined, I think. Okay, welcome, Arjun. So we've got, never mind. Okay, so we've got classes, right? These are just classes, so they can be inherited. All of Form 1 can be inherited, and like any other class, all of these things can be inherited. So we're gonna start by discussing the idea of visual inheritance. First, I want to show you guys something, though. I'm not sure. A troll, probably. Cool. So, cool. I want you guys to take a look at this. So you guys see this is where I'm creating datetime picker 1. You guys can see these are objects exactly how we know objects to be, right? We give it a type, system.windows.forms.datetimePicker, and we say datetimePicker 1. And we say system.windows.forms.label, label 1. Okay, so we've got 2 objects here, and they've got a type and they've got a name. Okay, they're exactly like usual objects. But I want you guys to tell me, look at how we've created these objects here. And when I say inheritance, we want to inherit this entire form. So I want to inherit the form, the datetime picker, and the label. Look at how I've created the label and datetime picker here. What's the problem, guys? When I want to inherit these into another class, what's the problem that we're going to run into? Does anyone know? Exactly, Saham. They're private, right? That means they're only, yeah, Jatin, exactly. They're only accessible inside the class, right? So what can I change them to? Make it protected, precisely. Okay, so if I make them protected, then I'll be able to access them inside this class and in anything that inherits from this class. Okay, inside the class and in anything that inherits from the class. So that's a fairly good start, I think. Cool. So that solves our first problem. Now I can go ahead and create a form that inherits from Form 1. And you guys will see it'll look exactly how inheritance looked back in chapter 2. There's literally no difference, okay? How I get to it will be slightly different. So I'm going to say add new item. I'm going to add another form. And it's going to be of type inherited form. So you guys can see it'll have an option here. If I say inherited form, you can see there's an inherited form. I'm going to hit add. And you guys can see I can pick all of the different forms that I've created. Obviously, we've only created one form so far. So I can pick form 1 from Bob app. And I'm going to pick form 1 to inherit from. Okay, and this is going to create a new form called form 2 that inherits from form 1. And there we go. We've created form 2. And you guys can see it says public partial class form 2 inherits. You see the colon there from form 1. All right. Cool. We don't need to discuss that because it's not testable. But just know, so the partial thing is just saying it's the class spans multiple files. So you can see it says partial class form 1 here, but it also says so it's just saying that some of form 2 is defined in this file, and other parts of form 2 are defined in another file. Okay, that's all this partial is suggesting. Okay, cool. Anyway, so we've got that. Okay, so I've got form 2 here. I'm going to change, so you see it says form 1 there. I'm just going to change it to make it clear that this is the derived form. So it inherited everything, right? It inherited everything, even the value of the title. So I'm just going to change that in the properties tab here. And you guys can see these are all properties. Why they're called properties? Because it's just a class, right? So everything in a class, it's either a property or a method. And just like a normal class, this has properties and it has methods, right? So I just changed the text property of the form to derived form, and now the title is derived form. Okay, and you guys could even see where I set that. You guys can see it's this.text equals derived form. Okay, so that's that. All right, great stuff. So we've created an inherited form now, and you guys can see. So I'm going to jump over to program. You can see when I start the form. So I say application.run new form 1. Okay, I'm going to change that to form 2, right? So I'm running the derived form instead of the original form that we created. And so then when I click start, you guys can see that it'll open up derived form. Okay, and I'm able to pick dates and stuff still. So it inherited absolutely everything. Okay, and that's literally all visual inheritance is. So Windows forms, they are just classes, so they can be inherited. Okay, and they're inherited exactly the same as normal things are inherited, right? We just put a colon there and we say what it's inheriting from. Okay, inherited and derived forms inherit all the properties, attributes, and methods of the class, of the base class. Okay, no, I didn't. Wait, one. So, what is the time now, though? Okay, we've still got a lot of time. So they inherit all of the properties, attributes, and methods. Okay, so that includes the visuals. So they inherit the color, and as you guys saw, that's why I wanted you to take note of it. When we look at form 2, you guys see the size of form 2. You can. So when you guys see the size of form 2, you see I didn't have to change it. So when I created form 1 initially, it had that big size. Form 2 inherited the size from form 1. Okay, and it would inherit everything, color, size, location of controls and labels, absolutely everything it inherits from form 1, okay, including any functionality. All right, so to emphasize that everything is inherited, what we call this is visual inheritance. Okay, to say that like the visual stuff is also inherited. That's all they're saying. Okay, it's just to help you understand that idea. Okay, cool. So we've created form 2, but now we wanted to actually be able to do something. So as Connor suggested, when you pick a date, if it's a certain date, we're going to set label 1 to that date. All right, we're just going to set label 1 to that date, and maybe we'll do some fun things with birthdays, or if you guys have any other interesting dates, like we can label some historical events, maybe. That sounds fun too. Cool. So we'll do something like that. So great. How we start with that. So as you guys know, basically everything's done with events in these applications, right? When we select a date, when we select a particular time, or when the value that datetime picker holds is changed, we are able to trigger certain methods. And it's actually really easy to trigger certain methods in Windows Forms. So all you have to do to link to a particular item's event is double click it. So I'm going to double click the datetime picker. All right, double clicked it, and you guys see it gave me this method over here. So it automatically created this method over here called datetime picker 1 underscore value changed. And all that's saying is when datetime picker 1's value is changed, this method will run. Okay. Now, I don't want you to be freaked out because this did it automatically, because it is exactly the same as when we attached to events ourselves. In order to show you that, I'm going to jump into the source code. Okay, I'm going to jump into the source code, and we're going to find exactly where this is added. Let me find it quickly. Where are you? Oh, sorry about that. Let me close up some things so that I can navigate this more easily. There it is. Okay, so you see it says this dot datetime picker 1 dot value changed. So that's the event. And you guys can see there'd be other events as well. If I hit dot, there'd be other events as well that we could change to, okay, that we could link to. Like when it's clicked, or when it's when a mouse moves over it. So like when you hover over it, when the mouse leaves it. So you guys can see when you roll the mouse wheel on it, there's a bunch of different events that we could add to, plenty of ways to customize it. We are going to stick to customizing value changed events, okay? And we are adding a particular event, a particular method to this event, okay? So the name of the method that we're adding is dateTimePicker1 underscore value changed. Now they've got this fancy system.event handler here that you guys probably don't recognize because we've never used this kind of delegate before. But I'm going to show you that it is exactly how you understand events. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the name of the method that we want to run to just onValueChanged, okay? So I'm going to say onValueChanged, all right, like so. Now you can see it's underlined dateTimePicker1 underscore value changed because it can no longer find this method. It doesn't know where it is because we changed its name to onValueChanged, okay? But I can still just add that method to the event list. I can just say onValueChanged. Oof. Okay, that's some interesting functionality. Then we have to remember multiple birthdays, Connor. That's tough. Maybe. We'll see. I like the idea of doing historical events. I've done too many birthdays now. We can do like when you select if you select the day that, I don't know, D-Day happened, then it says D-Day happened on this day, or something like that. Or if you select 2001 9/11, then I'll say 9/11 happened or something. But we'll think about what to do. Anyway, initially, when the value changes, what we're going to do is just set label1.text. So label1.text. We're just going to set it to whatever is in dateTimePicker1 dot value. Okay, so whatever is in dateTimePicker1. Okay, like that. Okay. As simple as that. Ooh, that's a method, so we must call it like a method. There we go. So now when I run this, you can see if I select a particular date, the label changes to that date. Okay, so 25th of September, 26th, 2nd, 4th, and we can go way up and select years as well. Okay, cool. So that makes sense, hopefully. So that's just attaching something to an event. We're pretty familiar with how that works. We can do, like as Connor is pointing out here, we can do more advanced options. But before we get into that, I want to discuss, so you guys do recognize plus equals, okay? You guys do recognize plus equals, all right? So the name of the event plus equals whatever method you're adding to that event, okay? But what I want to tell you guys is just one way. Yeah, what I want to tell you guys is just one way to handle plus equals, okay? One way to understand plus equals, one way to describe why we use plus equals. So you guys know why we use plus equals, right? It's because we can add multiple methods to a single event, right? Like if you can imagine here, if I didn't want to just add that method, like let's say I had another method called onValueChanged2, and I wanted that method to also run when this event occurs, then we would, understandably, we would need to add both of those methods to the event. So plus equals allows us to add both of those events rather than setting it directly equals to, okay? So what we call that, well, like the ability to add multiple methods to a single event, is called multicast delegates, okay? And all that's saying, it's not a new idea. You guys already know what that means. It's not a new idea. It's just the ability to add multiple methods to a single event, all right? Multiple methods to a single event. Multiple methods can be bound to a single event. The other way to say that is there is a one-to-many relationship between events and methods, all right? One-to-many relationship between events and methods. Cool. I think let's maybe take a little break, and then we'll come back and say, and cover this last little bit. Okay. So multicast delegates is describing a one-to-many relationship between events and methods. Okay. Cool. I think, yeah, let's take a little break. What meme are you talking about? Okay, you said ignore that message, so I'll ignore it. I'm just going to go get a glass of water, guys. I also, unfortunately, spilled some of my tea on my desk here, so I'm going to get a cloth as well to clean that up. Be back now. Yeah, spilled tea. Very unfortunate. Anyway, it's cleaned up now. I got my glass of water. So ready to get started again, but we've only had like a 4-minute break. So I'll give you guys another sort of 3 or so minutes just to chill out and to regain focus. All right. So we'll get started again, let's say at 16:16, and then hopefully, oh, that's weird. Okay, I pushed apostrophe instead of, there you go, like so. Yeah, I think we should be able to finish all that. And then next week we just do Windows services, and then we'll actually be done with chapter 5. And this is the penultimate chapter of the course, guys. I'm going to play around. Okay, good luck with that. Ooh, I sent that. I'm going to send it to everyone instead. So 16:16. There we go. XXX. Cool. Yeah, that's cool, Connor. Let me Okay, I do want to get started again though. So let's do it. Cool. So we've covered this idea of Windows forms, and we've seen that we can create a Windows form like this, all right? And we can also inherit from Windows forms. And the reason we can inherit from them is pretty much the same reason we can inherit from anything, because it's just a class, right? It's just a class. So there's nothing special going on there. What's next? Okay, there's one more aspect of Windows forms to cover. It's a fairly interesting idea, a little bit weird, and there's a really weird question in this sort of section, but I'll point it out to you when we get to it. Okay, and just be careful, like watch out for it. Okay, so concentrate. The distinction that we're going to be discussing now is that there are two kinds of Windows forms. Okay, Windows forms can have multiple documents interfaces or single documents interfaces. Okay, the other way of saying it is they can be multiple documents interface applications or single document interface applications. Okay, and so what do we mean by that? Right, it's a fairly simplistic difference. Like the formal definitions are here. So an SDI, a single document interface application, that means that the windows are managed by the operating system, and there is only one window per toolbar. Okay, I'll show you what that means now though. Okay, the multiple document interface, if we set this Boolean variable, which is MDI container, so Boolean, it only holds true or false. If we set it to true, that tells C# that it is a multiple documents interface, okay, a container for multiple document interfaces. That means that it will have child windows, and the application itself will manage the windows. Okay, so here are just two examples to illustrate the idea. A single document interface would be something like the Windows calculator. Okay, let me expand that out for you guys, so you guys can see. If I open up calculator, you guys can see I've got one interface here, right? If I wanted to open up another calculator window, I couldn't, right? There's no like button that says new window or that allows me to open another tab, like another calculator tab. In order to open up another calculator, I have to actually open up like a second calculator, which is totally fine. This isn't a bad thing, right? Obviously, you only need one of these. But if you open up a second calculator, you can see that Windows itself. So one of the Roosevelt students actually did in Rex Tester. I can send it through to you. It's quite cool. Although error handling and stuff is quite difficult, hey Saham, to find out like if what they typed is an integer, stuff like that. But I think you guys would know how to make your own calculator already with console.readline, console.writeline, all of the addition and stuff like that. Mm, mm. I suppose we could have two buttons and an addition button maybe, or something like that. I mean, we did it in JavaScript though already, so it's the same basically. Anyway, so look, we've got these two calculators, and the big thing to notice, because they are single document interfaces, I've got two windows, and you can see that Windows itself is the thing that's managing, right? Windows itself is managing the window. I can only have one calculator per menu bar. Like per of this top menu strip here that says calculator, can only have one document per one of those. It is a SDI application, a single document interface. An MDI application is just the counter to that, right? Like Google Chrome. I can open up a tab in Google Chrome and another tab. So you can see I can have multiple Google Chrome interfaces in one toolbar, right? In like one of these menu strips at the top here, I can have multiple Google Chrome interfaces. So that's the difference between SDI and MDI. And you can probably think of a whole lot, like Visual Studio itself is an MDI application, right? Because you see it's got multiple tabs. I can open up new windows, like it's managing its own windows here. So yeah, that's an MDI application. This little application that we just created, can someone tell me, is this SDI or MDI, this little application we just created ourselves, our little date time picker? Is this an MDI or an SDI application? SDI. Yeah, precisely. You get the idea. Cool. Both of you do. That's great stuff. Yes, this is an SDI application, right? Because there's only, there's no like button that allows me to open a new tab or something. Okay, cool. Very funny. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's an SDI application. Cool, 100%. So let's create an MDI application to show you the advantages of it. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to create another Windows form. So we're going to create a third Windows form. And that third Windows form is going to open multiple. So form 3 is going to be able to hold multiple form 2s. Okay, so form 3 is going to be able to hold multiple form 2s. All right, so let's do that. Hello, sir, sorry for coming later. Oh, okay, no problem, Azam. Do catch up with what you missed, though, because you missed quite a lot, okay? Cool. So we are going to create an MDI application, so I'm going to create another form. Okay, so I'm going to say, yeah, exactly. Form 3 is going to be able to hold multiple, not hold multiple form 2s. Cool. So, okay, I'm going to create another Windows form. So I'm going to hit add. Now notice this wasn't an inherited form, right? It's got that old large size, right? You see the size of the Windows form. So yeah, it's a form 3, as Yuvia just usefully pointed out for us. And you guys can see it's large, right? Because it didn't inherit from form 1 or form 2. So it's got that default size that we had to change. I'm going to leave it large. We're going to leave it big like this because it needs to hold multiple form 2s. So it needs to be a big application. Okay, cool. So in the left, the first thing, if you want it to be an MDI application, and guys, you need to remember this. If you want it to be an MDI application, you have to set the is MDI container property. It's over here, is MDI container. You have to go ahead and set that to true, okay? And you see its background changed. This is now a multiple documents interface container. So this can hold multiple documents interfaces, so from other apps. Okay, cool. Now, what we need is a button that we can click that will allow us to create a new window, right? And that's going to be pretty simple to add. We are going to add it in what is called a menu strip. And all a menu strip is like this thing at the top here in Visual Studio. That's a menu strip. In fact, it was implemented exactly in this way. You see they've got a window thing here, and you can select a whole bunch of different options about your window. They've got this list of windows here. Literally, guys, this is exactly what we're going to create. This is how Visual Studio was created. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a menu strip to our application. Okay. Oh, sorry, I clicked a pin. Cool, there we go. So I'm going to add a menu strip. So there's a whole bunch of options in our little drag and drop feature here. I'm going to click menus. There's this option called menu strip. And I'm just going to drag the menu strip on here. Bam, we've got a menu strip. So who is I think it's Connor. I'm guessing it's Connor since he switched to his laptop. Okay, but we do have, okay. I'm just going to pretend it's Joshua and mark him as present on the register. I'm kidding. Cool. So I'm going to create a button. So we're going to create an option called window. Now, guys, notice I'm going to ask you a question soon. So focus. I'm going to type window. You guys see I just typed window here. Okay, so I hit enter. Okay, I've got the button window. Under the option window. So what's this is creating? This is creating like a window button. And I'm now adding options to window. Okay, so I'm going to add another one called new window. Notice I'm going to put an asterisk. There we go. Is that called an asterisk? No, it's not. Hey, that's called an ampersand. So I've put an ampersand there and I'm going to type new window. Yeah, exactly. It's an and sign, ampersand, I think it's called. Yeah. I don't know why I forgot its name temporarily. Cool. So you guys can see, I said window, new window. Oh, okay, that's very annoying. Cool. Okay, it stopped. So we've got new window. Guys, look at new window. What do you notice about it? What did you notice about it, guys? What do you notice about that new window option? What's difference between window and new window, other than the text itself, of course? Anyone? Okay. Has a drag and drop down thingy. This is so this is just us where we can add more options, Saham. That type here thing. Just look at the text itself. What's the noticeable difference there? And think about where I put that ampersand. It's underlined. Yeah, exactly. N is underlined. Do you guys know what that means when a letter is underlined in a menu item? Do you guys know what that means when a letter is underlined in a menu item? Does anyone know? Okay, so you guys know what a hotkey is, right? You guys know what a hotkey is? A hotkey. From when you play games, you must know what a hotkey is, I think. Cool. So when we click the letter N, okay, whatever letter I put the ampersand in front of, when I click that letter on my keyboard, it will activate that option. So when I hit N, it's going to activate new window. Okay. Wait, so yeah, exactly. It's a shortcut. It's a shortcut, precisely. So if I put an ampersand in front of the E instead, then when I hit E, it's going to open up a new window. Okay, so all the ampersand is specifying is which letter is the hotkey. Okay, that's what it's specifying. Anyway, so when we click the new window button, we need a new window to open. So in order to attach to the click event of new window, I'm going to double click new window. Okay, so I'm just going to double click it. There you go, I double clicked it. And it says new window tool strip menu item _ click. Yes, trolling very hard. So cool, we've got a form 3 here. Okay, new Windows tool strip menu item _ click. Okay, so when you click new window, when you click that new window button, this is what we want to happen. Okay, we want to, when you click that button, to open up a new window of type form 2. Okay, how we're going to do that? The first thing you have to understand, form 2 is just a class. Okay, it's just a class. So when I create something of type, let's say we had a rectangle class, I would say rectangle rect1 equals new rectangle, right? That's how I would create a new thing of type rectangle, right? Rectangle in that case. If we had a person class, we would say person1 equals new person, right? That's how we would create a new person. We would say person1 equals new person, right? Something like that. If we had a queue, we would say queue Q, my Q equals new Q, right? You guys know how we create objects when we have classes. So all I'm going to do is create an object of type. All I'm going to do is create an object of type form2. So I'm going to say form2 child equals new form2. Okay, like so. All right. And that's how we create a new form2. Now, the last thing we'll need to do is just tell form2 that form3 is its parent, okay? Now, understand, guys, when I click new window, here in this method is inside